The reason why we wanted the Cyclone was because we had these amazing, beautiful, procedurally generated environments, and all of the vehicles that we had previously had all sort of hovered or flew around. So we didn't get an opportunity to give you sort of that sensation of hugging the terrain and bouncing around valleys and sort of skipping over boulders and things like that. And the Cyclone is sort of the perfect vehicle for that. It's got these wheels that are sticking off of the body of it. It's got these super thick treads, so you really get a sensation of sort of hugging the terrain as you're going over the mountain valleys and things like that.
These are kind of like rapid response vehicles, aren't they? So people will be able to like drive up super fast, have some kind of combat scenario, ideally win, take the loot, get back in the vehicle, go back to their ship or base, and off you go. So yeah, I mean, it's play it your own way, isn't it? You know, it's what do you want to do? Where do you want to go today? It's one of those classic lines.
When this was first brought to me, I was given the task of designing a dune buggy for Star Citizen. We were at the time like just creating the planets, the procedural planets, and we wanted like a way to traverse them. And we only had the rover at the time, and we were coming out with the Nox and the Dragonfly. And this was the first time we were ever actually going to create a ground-only vehicle that wasn't attached to anything else. And so they came to me and they're like, we want like a dune buggy, something that's gonna like go fast, go over the jumps, and just, we wanted something that was just gonna traverse the planets as fast as possible while just like being something fun to drive. After that, we went into the design brief phase and concepting, and we kind of were trying to figure out what other utility this could actually encompass. So we wanted just to have like a bare bones version that was just the flatbed with the cargo, and then we were like, okay, what other things can we put into this that will give it utility across like multiple versions? And so we came up in the beginning like with 5 to 10 different versions, and then we kind of pared it down to like, what are the essential things? What are the things we actually want this thing to do? And we came up with the 5 versions that we have now, which is the base, which is just nothing, just the cargo. We have the turret, because we knew we wanted a turret. We wanted a guy up there like shooting a gun, and we wanted to have some sort of offensive capability. Then we're like, we need something, because we didn't have anything at the time where it was like, that's on the ground, that can actually deal with a threat in the air. So we had to like come up with a version that supported ground troops using anti-air capabilities like flare and chaff, and we gave it an EMP, and then we of course gave it some missiles to shoot down things from the sky. And then we also wanted like just a recon version, something that had a scanner, something that could like basically chart the surface of the moon that you were exploring. And so that's the recon version. And then we just wanted a fun one, just a race one. Originally with the racer version, we like pitched the concept of just putting a ship engine on the back of it. And then they came back and they're like, no, that's a little too extreme for what we're going for, but we still wanted the racing version, so we're just gonna cover it up, make it a little more aerodynamic, put the spoiler on it. We're gonna put like nitrous oxide boosters or something in there just to give you that speed boost.
There's a couple of really cool things about being in the Cyclone. For a vehicle this small, it's very cool that it's a multi-crew ship, essentially. You've got a pilot, co-pilot, and then in one of the variants, you'll actually have a gunner sitting up above you. So you'll be able to, get into gunfights and have the guy behind you try and cover you and stuff like that, and that's really cool.
I just knew that the very first thing I wanted was speed. Like, I looked at what we had with the Ursa rover, and I took basically that as a template, and then I brought it into the Cyclone, and I'm like, okay, where's the number that controls speed? Because I hadn't actually made one before. And I went in and I just immediately just doubled it. I'm just like, whatever this is, it was like 35 or something, and I'm like, make it 70, how fast is this going? And then when I did that, like I could tell that Now with that at a much faster speed in the same turning rate, you would start turning and then the Cyclone would just shift immediately. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool, but it feels a little too fast. So I had to kind of tune it back and forth. It has a better turning radius than the Ursa rover because it has the double, the back wheels and the front wheels turn, but the turning radius of the wheels themselves are actually smaller. So it's like I had to tune it so it didn't feel like as soon as you turn the wheel, like you would shoot off in another direction.
So I think that the coolest part of the ship is probably the tires, right? So they're set up in such a way that it's not sort of one big piece of rubber. It's composed of plates that are sort of folded on top of each other. And the idea is that they would sort of unfold as they start reaching the floor in order to give you a little bit more grip. You get a little more traction. So we're trying to figure out how to mechanically actually get that to work. But on the art side, it's already built to support that kind of a thing.
The Cyclone was something that they really wanted to get into the game as fast as possible. So after concept, we immediately went into like white box and gray box phase. And it was actually really, really fast because it's something that doesn't really have too much technical stuff, especially with just the base version that we're only releasing. So we were able to get it into game really quickly and just drive it around. So I was able to tune a lot of like the parameters for how it felt and how it drove. It was done within like a few weeks, just getting it in the game. And that was pretty exciting to see. So right now we're heading into flight prep, which is the final stage of production. Basically, we're handing it off to all the other departments, say, hey, sound. What do you think the Cyclone should sound like? Put those sounds in. VFX, like how is it different than the rover? Like what other things can you give us? Like is there going to be fire shooting out of the hood? Like when it explodes, like give me something like that. And then there's UI and just all these other little things that need to get added in and everyone to take a look at before we say, hey, this is done.
It'll be interesting to see how people use the vehicle, and will it just be used as a single scout vehicle, trying to sort of not attract much attention, or will people have 20 or 30 of these things all just, going along in like a formation? I mean, that's the beauty of Star Citizen, isn't it? That you never know what people are going to do and what tactics you're going to employ and what's going to appear on YouTube. People doing crazy stunts or trying to fit in 50 of them into one of the cargo ships. You never know what's going to happen.
The kind of player that will be interested in driving the Cyclone is probably one that's interested in exploration, but one that wants to explore by sort of experiencing the environment a little bit more closely than you would on a Dragonfly, for example.
I guess the difference between a Cyclone and piloting a Nox or a Dragonfly would be that you're actually connected to the road. Like if you hit a bump in the road, you're gonna feel it when you're in the Cyclone. When you're piloting a Dragonfly or a Nox, it has those gravlevs, which are kind of tuned to predict what's going to be in front of you and try to like give you a little bit of air to like kind of get over them and like give you these soft landings. Whereas if you hit something in the Cyclone, you just start flying and you go spinning. Like I've hit like a little bumper, like someone gave a plant on the surface some collision, and that collision is just a little bit like a little too pointy, and like it doesn't actually, it's not, you run over a plant in the real world and it would just, you'd be fine. But this thing, it had a little bit of collision on it, you hit it and you just like, oh wow, and you just start spinning, and it's actually really fun.
I would probably go for this just because of its flexibility in what it can do. It is versatile. It's not slow. I prefer things to go fast. And you have got that flexibility that we spoke about. It's that, that modularity. I can have my hangar or garage or whatever, and I can have my multiple pods, and I can swap them out depending on what mood am I in today, what do I want to do today, put that pod on, go out and cause some havoc.